Hey, this is Alex Vasko with All For Him Racing Videos, and you're listening to Cash on the Hood podcast. When you're done listening, please go over to YouTube and check out all the number 4 Him Racing videos for all your derby action needs.
Hey, yo, welcome to Cash on the Hood, your favorite podcast. Of course, Brian tells me to tell you, like, share, and subscribe. But today we got Alex Vasko and Steven Sickles here at the StudioME in East Liberty. These guys came a long way to be a part of this podcast. And while I'm telling you about podcasts, of course, Cinema Psychos, follow along with Brian Cottington and what he's got going on. Alex,
Hi.
Tell us about yourself, man.
Sure. I'm Alex Vasko, and I am the man behind All For Him Racing Videos.
Nice.
So we post derby content all over the socials.
Steven Sickles. You've seen me on a lot of these episodes, so I'm always here. But follow me on Facebook, Steven Sickles, Revved Up Garage Cast, Sickles Racing.
Right. So if you heard one, we're on episode 2 now. We're going to talk about what it's like being on tour. This is something I know about. 12 years ago, I decided to get away from the bricks and mortar and go on tour, and it has done and served me well. And I've been on tour with both of you guys sitting here at different types of times. I've been California, Steven. I've been everywhere with you.
We have a lot of experience.
Yeah, we've got a lot of seat time as a group. That's one thing I want to say about you is you make that drive each and every time, every weekend. You're driving in that Honda Pilot.
Yep, driving wherever I need to go.
Right. So I know that upcoming this year, you want to come to the West Coast, right?
I'd like to start venturing out west for sure because there's a lot of great derby out that way that I've never been able to see before, and it's on my bucket list to venture that way.
Well, I hope that you could come out. I know it's on the same weekend as the Expo, so I don't know if you're planning on coming to Spring Extreme or going to the Expo.
We're still trying to figure out those details because it's quite an operation to do the Expo booth and everything with the family. So we're still trying to work out those details.
Man, I wish he was there when we were in Chino.
Yeah. Well, I learned a lot about Chino. Even with their Starlink, they can't pull off a live stream. It's just so dead zone.
Still just middle of nowhere kind of thing?
Yeah, even though it's just that far outside of Los Angeles, it really is a zone. Because I was calling again like I do every year. I'm like, how do we get Track Shot Live in the Chino? You know, because Steve and I love that moat. The locals let us play, and then they took us out.
Love, hate.
There's a moat. There's a literal moat. Rather than having a jersey barrier at a derby, it's...
Yep, and I saw the videos, so I believe it now.
Well, the irony of the moat, too, they had a waterline main break the day that we derbied. So the water actually was shooting 20, 30 foot into the air for hours before the derby.
Oh, no.
The moat physically filled with water even.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be a moat. It's supposed to just be a ditch that's, that you knock everyone out of competition.
That is funny.
They actually, they turned it into some pretty cool stuff. They had balloon or blow up alligators
and flamingos in the water, so they made it fun.
Yeah, they even did a little challenge. If you hit the alligator, you got money or something.
Well, that does bring up a good point. Some of the derby tracks that we've been able to visit have just been so cool, and to think that we could go to these parts of the country because of derby. I mean, how wild is that?
It's true. Like
I've been blessed to get to go to a lot, and the moat is something that sort of stands out to me, and also like Utah. What's the one that's right at Johnny Gallo's, the Golden Spike Event Center, right?
Is that Heber? Or
no, that's
the other one.
That's like Salt Lake, but what's it called? I can't think of it. But it is a coliseum. Like that's what it feels like. You literally, it feels like you're pulling into a gladiator event when you pull on that track.
Yeah, the rodeo arenas in Utah are absolutely something to.
And that's one of those that's the bucket list kind of a venue that I've never been to, and I would love to be to.
That's right.
So we need to get out there.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about setting up a tour. You want to be, try to get the best bang for your buck, not just.
Yeah, I need to be more strategic with some of that. There definitely have been years where I would film an event Friday and then travel to an event Saturday and then catch one on Sunday on the way home. So but sometimes I just kind of went in small spurts like that. But there's been multiple weekends where I have multiple events. And a lot of traveling, and normally I like to sleep in my own bed, so that means a lot of driving.
Yeah. No, I get it. What you do would pull that last night shift, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I've driven through the night a lot more than I'd probably like to admit, but because people will say I'm crazy, but I would much rather just stay up and drive and be home than to stay in a hotel and hit the road in the morning because I'm not a morning person.
Oh, all right. Well, that makes sense then.
See,
Yeah, well, I showed up a
anticipated
smidge
you
late.
as a morning person too.
Yeah. Right.
No,
Talking numbers, you know what the most shows you've attended in a year is so far?
So yeah, the most I ever attended was in 2021. I did 49 events that year. And that's 49 events that I filmed. So I stood there the whole time.
It's almost one a
Every
week.
minute.
But the interesting thing about Derby is we don't have Derby for consecutively for roughly 5-6 months of the year. So
that was primarily from like just before Bash to the TJ show.
So from May to October, you're doing
so it's like 8 months.
40 plus events, we'll say.
Yep.
Yeah, with 3 show weekends, it's crazy.
It's a lot. Really fortunate though and blessed to be able to be in that position to see that many shows and travel to them. But I will admit that does take a toll. And there's a reason I go to the chiropractor once a month because whether it's from derbying or just from sitting in my car or something,
there's rough on your body that long.
It tears you up. You don't realize it until you're in the middle of it.
Yep.
What drives you to do this, man? I know you got some babies at home and like you're a man who's busy.
To be honest, sometimes I ask myself the same question. So definitely have the motivation of taking care of the family first and foremost as a dad. But I will also say that I am passionate about the sport, and I also am one that if I set a goal for myself, I'm going to achieve it.
I can tell.
And some of them are a little lofty and, a little bit, but I do my research. I come up with a plan, and then I execute that plan. I think a great example, we kind of talked on in episode 1, if you haven't heard it, but my Facebook or the TikTok too. Those were ones that I didn't really, it wasn't that I didn't do anything with them. I just never really took them that serious. And once I put a plan and strategy together, the results kind of speak for themselves. And I'm really blessed to have had that happen for me.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Definitely a good combination of work ethic and just wanting it.
Yeah. So, and maybe that's just the derby driver in me is just that sense of competition, whether it's on the track or off the track, as far as being able to get more content out to people. But I've just always been always been very goal oriented, and maybe that's harnessing some of my ADHD to do good to the world and not do bad. But I definitely see some of those character traits come out in my work.
Is this something you plan on doing for another 5 years? You have ideas, strategies?
I take it 1 year at a time, if I'm being honest. I definitely would love to. My personal goal is that in the next few years, I can continue to get my family with me more. So maybe that means I need to hit a few less events, but we'll make the events really count and be able to do it together as a family. We've been doing that a little bit. They've definitely came to a handful of events last year and helped work the merch tent. And my kids sell way more shirts than I do. They just look way cuter, but
Rowdy totally beats everybody.
Yeah. But we're taking it in stride. Honestly, I'd like to get back in the driver's seat more, because that when you do this kind of hustle, you have to give up something. Mm-hmm. And for me, it was leisure time at home and being in the drive. I've come to realize that it was being in the driver's seat, because I never was a super hardcore driver, but I think what was my busiest season? I probably ran like 7-8 events, something like that. It kind of blurs between Derby and figure 8, but for me, 7 or 8 events in a year. And now I'm to this past year. If somebody wouldn't have put me in a car, I wouldn't have been able to drive.
You ran a van.
Right?
Oh yeah, that's right. I did
van.
run the expo van, but the year before that, I was thinking this was going to be the first year I've never ran, and then Josh Decker and crew out there put me in a car at San Filippo. So
I finally got to run with Alex in the middle of, I thought it was Michigan, but I think it might have been Indiana.
It was Indiana. That was how I ended up there. That was only a half hour north of my house out in Kendallville.
I didn't expect him to even be there, and then he pulls in a van, and I'm like, all right, I know Alex. He about killed me about 2 minutes into the Derby. Like, I am so lucky that my van had enough power. It was running like crap that night. I had enough power to get out of his way.
Yeah, some people drive for the show and some drive for the dough. I drive for both.
That's the goal and the idea.
If you're gonna beat me, you're gonna have to take me out, and I'm gonna take some people with me along the way.
I don't know what took you out that night, but
it was something so silly. It was my fuel pump switch.
I remember now,
and it decided that I've used that switch for so many years, never had a problem. Go to pull out on the track, won't turn on. So what I did was I
hold the
ripped
wires together, correct?
I ripped the wires out, pinched them together with this hand because it was the only one I could reach the wires with. And then I drove the entire Derby left-handed, shifting and everything.
So normally
and it was a loaded heat too.
Normally you think that would make him drive a little bit more of a slow pace. I'm telling you, if he would have connected, that would have been one of the roughest shots of the year.
That was one of my slower paces too. And that's but
I don't know.
Yeah, that was a loaded heat because it was you, JD was out there,
Santel, Bill Miller, Heather Ridinger. There was
impressive.
Richie Fazenbaker, the other gentleman.
He was the one who ultimately took me out. I would say that. Yeah,
the old man.
I was trying to pitch my wires back together, and he comes half track right at me and in the front corner.
And it might not have been that you were going that fast. Them caravans, I mean, they just scare me because you get hit by a caravan, they hurt.
Yeah. Yes.
But
they're so heavy.
I've never been one to just sit on the track, so I will keep running whether I'm making contact or not. You're going to be. The crowd likes to. I typically try to put on a show for the crowd, and sometimes that just means I'm driving circles around people, but using my figure eight skills to the best of my ability to weave and navigate the track.
I actually have like a decent bit of like Mad Dogs. They didn't used to be called Mad Dogs in our area. They were hard hitting trophies. They were called back in the day, but a lot of them, like you said, they're putting on the show aspect. If something started to go wrong with my car back in the day, that's at that moment I would flip my switch and just be like, well, I'm going to take home junk. And that's how I got most of my hard-hitting trophies before Steven started being like, I sort of like to try and win.
Yep. Well, I've done both, though. And there was just some of those events that you really wanted to win, and so you drove smart and were more calculated and do it. But most of the time, I don't get to drive enough these days, so I'll just go have fun.
Yeah, you need that every once in a while. Even the years that I chased points and I was so focused on winning, what people didn't see behind the scenes is I would take a pre-run car that was like half dead and get a new Alex on a Friday night in between and just fully send it.
Yeah, just go have fun.
Yeah, and no one ever got to see videos of that and so everyone just thinks I'm always a bagger, but there's times where it's a little bit mixed.
There's times when I've seen you do it. I believe it.
We've made those jokes, yes.
Well, a lot of that to me, like I love the fans and want to put on a show for the fans, but I really get my enjoyment out of that chess match. That's where derbying to me is my most enjoyable aspect. So when you're playing chess, you want to have a good amount of pieces left on the board when you're going to battle the guy one-on-one, or you want to go in at a disadvantage.
I get that.
I like to ruin all my equipment as fast as I can. Like all this jibber jabber you guys are talking about.
This is why
any fun at all.
This is why Jason has sold most of his big car stuff and went to MWFA.
There's no reason for me to be in this class.
Oh no,
I waste money on purpose. I'm like, my goal was to just break the block from the first hit.
Funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I'm like, why do I participate at this level? I'm so very thankful for the cheap level.
Yeah, that and my wife will yell at me because she doesn't like when I do the Ohio driving where I pull up in the corner, back up, hit somebody, then pull back into the corner and keep hitting people.
Yeah.
There's a whole driving style around that, and that was the county fair, and that the times that I've done the best, that's what I had to do.
Well, that's how you make it out of the heat.
That's how you make it out of the heat. Absolutely right.
You got to make it to the feature one way or the other. That's how it's done. I get it.
Yeah, and between the heat and feature, you're going to work on that car, but do you want to work on that car to make it right, or do you want to work on that car to fix what you broke?
I get it, because half the time it's self-inflicted wounds.
Yeah, and heat and feature derbies, a lot of it's won by not even fixing the damage that was caused before, using the rules that you're allowed to benefit that car.
So you were talking about the tour, though, so...
Yeah, we got off track.
Well, I mean, that's okay. It's all good stuff. But yeah, you're talking about tours. So yeah, I try to not really say I'm going to be at particular events until I'm within a few weeks. Partly that's because I do have a full-time job outside of this, and there's just times when I have to navigate that, and maybe I can't travel to Pennsylvania, but I can hit up a local county fair that's an hour and a half from my house because I'm cruising into town that morning or something, So sometimes there has to be that give and take, which I know can be frustrating to promoters at times because they'll be like, hey, are you coming to my event? Be like, ooh, I'm still working on the schedule. Not really sure exactly yet. Or I'm waiting on the show choir competition schedule to come out, whatever is going on for my kids, and But that's life. And so that for me, it's been trying to find that balance and continuing that balance.
Well, it's hard to hit up all the events, especially when there's 5 or 6 on the same day. You know what I mean?
Yep. There'll be 5 or 6 within 2-3 hours of my house, which to me, that's driving distance. And which one do you pick? Because no matter what, you're going to miss something that happened. So that is a challenge.
Well, I think you've got the saturation. So now you can really focus on destination for you.
Yeah. Yep. And what I've been lucky enough that I have some family members who have been willing to travel and do some filming for me. So I've been able to outsource to some degree a few of those events from time to time. For the times when there is a particular show, like if I want to go to New York to support Josh Decker and those guys, that frees me up to allow to do that, but still support the shows that have always supported me because I don't know how else to say it. There was a time before I had a following, and there were local shows that I always went to every year, ran myself, and I don't want to forget. I don't want to forget those guys and the roots, and I want to continue to support those shows and help them grow in the way that I can.
You're not a quitter.
Not a quitter. I'm not going to give up on these people.
Alex has even had me one time. He's like, "Hey, can you find someone to record this?" And Teddy was able to.
Yep. Well, and even still, sometimes it's not that I need the views for my channel. It's like, I just want to make sure that somebody's going to cover this because I know it's going to be a good show.
Yeah, and I didn't even send the footage to him within a timely manner. So he's like, hey, do you want to post that on your channel just to get it out there so them drivers have something to remember the Derby?
Yep.
That's nice. Yeah. And your stuff comes without commentary.
Correct. And so, even in the times when I've collaborated with Trackshot, I will post the raw footage from my camera the same way that I would if I was filming any other event, and you're going to get a different experience. And some people will rewatch both events because they actually look at it as being two separate things. Sometimes when you have the commentary, you don't hear that engine that's pegged to the max and he's melting it down over here by my camera. And so if you want to just get in the raw, as if you were watching the event, that's one thing that I think we offer more so than anybody else. Yeah. Is you feel like you're standing right there on the wall, capturing it as it happened, or watching it as it happened.
Well, with the power of social media, couch criticists, as I like to call them, they depending on a commentary, there's so much condemnment of if this guy doesn't have the knowledge. Yep. Then the next guy's going to be like, well, this guy only talks about Derby. Yep. So it's hard to make everyone happy. So sometimes it's nice to just have that video with nothing.
Yeah, because there's been times when I can't help it, but my engineer comes out at times and I talk about something and people are like, I don't care about any of that. I just want to talk about something else. But there are guys out there that would love to study geometry and why did this actually impact? And I have to admit, at times I've been afraid to explain it because of the criticism that there's going to be guys out there saying, no, you're totally wrong. But it's well, I do this every day. I can tell you how certain forces work with other forces and the impact of that.
That's the thing about the silo of Facebook. It doesn't really help some of the productive conversation. Sometimes it feels like Steven says, you worry about the negative because there's people out there doing that stuff. And, what I was more talking about was that I'm part of the commenter part of Derby where we're just trying to be entertaining and off the cuff and make sure people's names are said. And and you, I'm very thankful for your raw footage because I feel like I say a lot of dumb stuff. So,
I think we're all guilty of that though. And I love going back and watching the track shot stuff because I'll be over there filming and I have no idea what you guys are talking about. And I'd love to go back and watch to be like, what were you guys watching? Because you guys sometimes you see stuff that I never even saw.
But it's fun to be on the same arena as you. You know what I mean? So I'm just trying to say I really appreciate the working environment that we have together. You know what I mean? I know that you do really well with Bill, and you guys are in the ear set. You got the Bluetooth running. You're sending signals. And as a video nerd, I think that's really cool. And I think that's fun that you're doing that type of thing because I think the video, of course, is like I said, it is so important to what we're doing as a Derby community. It reinforces all of our stuff. You know what I mean? There it is. It's on the track, you know.
And I will admit too, there's reasons why I don't do live stream. You were kind of talking about the remoteness of the Chino, and you know, there's a lot of these county fairs that you're just in the middle of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee that if you go to rewatch one of our videos, it's going to be high def. It's going to be the best quality that it can be, and you're going to enjoy the videos. And you wouldn't have gotten that necessarily from a live stream.
That's the truth. And that's the thing about that. You get to record, edit, you know what I mean? You get to control the product. Where the live stream is just that. Yeah,
and I will edit out cautions. Now, if there's something worth seeing, you know, why are they stopping the track while they're getting a bumper off, or they're trying to flip this car over? But I'll take out a lot of that in between stuff. That there's just times when you need to let something have some time, right? For an engine to cool down, a fire to burn out. As a fan, you're not going to just sit there on the video and say, "Ooh, I'm going to watch this fire burn." Nope, they want to get right back to the action. So I do everybody a favor by making those cuts to allow that action to keep going.
But it's easier to digest. You know what I mean? That way you can, because that is sometimes when you're in the stands, you're like, "Oh my!" But it took 35 minutes to clear the track.
Yeah, but you kind of commented on the, the keyboard critics. They just don't sometimes know what's going on. There's something that I can see. So that's where I've tried to really start to zoom in on the track of, is it a tire? Is it a bumper that we're stopping? Because there was a time when I was just, as soon as it was done, I'd clip and edit and get right back to the action. But we were like, hey, what happened? So I'm trying to explain that. Now, sometimes when I have people help me, they don't do that. I have the footage that I have, but I've been trying to help educate people. I don't know if that's the right word here to use, because I am offering entertainment, but I want to have them understand why the action stopped.
Well, we're trying to grow it. So the sport in general is trying to grow. So you have to educate.
Yeah.
And now that I think about it, every video I've ever done, it's been start and stop from the moment that red flag's waved, the moment the green flag's waved. And I'm trying to cut down on time. That way sometimes they might want to see a little bit of that.
Yep. So I try to meet everybody where they're at and give them good footage, but at the same time, I want to keep it rolling, because it is offering some kind of a level of entertainment for everybody.
You're absolutely right. All right. Give us to where we can find you, man.
Sure. So Alex Vasko, you can find me on Facebook. Then All For Him Racing, we're on all the main socials. So All For Him Racing videos, that's with the number 4. Mm-hmm. And if you've seen Derby videos online, you've probably stumbled across one of ours and never even realized it.
Steven Sickles on Facebook, Revved Up GarageCast, Revved Up Custom Automotive, Sickles Racing on everything else. Over to you, Jason.
Oh, thank you guys so much. Of course, thank our man Brian behind the decks, Cinema Psychos. He's got nearly 300 podcasts. He's the man. Works at Libsyn. We record here at StudioME. And pretty soon you're going to hear All For Him commercials in these Cash on the Hood podcasts.
Sounds awesome.
So I appreciate the collaboration we're about to throw down. So stick around. 2 more weeks, you're going to hear part 3 with Alex Vasko.